Rocca is a brilliant 11-year-old girl whose father is an astronaut. That afternoon, Rocca lands a plane filled with 180 passengers. The pilot is unable to work as he and all the members aboard, excluding her, suffer from food poisoning. A reporter broadcasts the amazing scene, and no one knows that Rocca saved the day. Rocca whips out her skateboard as she skates through the airport. She pauses and looks at her surroundings before proceeding to find a taxi.
Augenzeugen berichten von einem kleinen Mädchen.
She confronts the man, asking if he knows where Harvester Hugh is. The taxi man opens his trunk for her to put her items inside and informs her he takes only cash as he proceeds to drive her. On the way, he asks where she's coming from, and she says Baikonur in Kazakhstan.
Baikonur, das ist in Kasachstan.
The man knows it's where they launch rockets and asks if she flew all by herself. Rocca misinterprets as she replies to him, "No, just the last part," signifying that she piloted the plane she was on. She explains that she isn't allowed to fly an Airbus alone. The driver is confused by what she's saying, but laughs it off, claiming that she is funny. He asks if her parents are waiting for her at home, but realizes that her mum has passed away.
Nein, meine Mama ist im Himmel.
She also mentions how her father comes to visit her once in a while. This also confuses the driver, who stops paying attention to the road. Rocca yells as she tells him to watch out. The taxi swerves as the driver tries to avoid a squirrel and crashes his car. Rocca exits the car and rushes to the squirrel to see if it's all right. She makes a risky move by going on the road, but avoids all the cars until she gets to the squirrel and rescues it. The taxi driver calls his mum and explains that the crash isn't his fault this time, but rather a squirrel's fault. Rocca rushes back and gives him the squirrel while telling him to be careful. She hops into the driver's seat and moves the car out of the way to free up traffic. She gives the taxi man a thumbs up, leaving him with an amazing encounter he will never forget. Rocca places the injured squirrel in her backpack to rest as she continues her journey on foot. She is assisted by an AI, and on her way to her grandma's place, she sees a homeless man, Casper. Rocca asks if he needs help. Casper doesn't pay attention to her, but she insists he can't be searching trash if he isn't looking for something. Casper says he's looking for empty bottles to sell to get something to eat. Rocca offers him her money to help, and although he is happy with her offer, he turns her down.
Hier.
She then offers him a handshake to mark their friendship, but he also refuses, pointing out that his hands are dirty. Casper is happy because no one has ever approached him so kindly. He bids her goodbye before they go their separate ways. When Rocca arrives at her destination, she rings the gate before informing Grandma that she's here. The automated gate opens, and Rocca lets herself in. She enters the house and rushes to give Grandma a warm hug. Grandma is confused because Rocca is to arrive on Monday. Unfortunately, she had the dates mixed in her head and had no idea it was Monday. As a result, she didn't go to the airport to pick Rocca, who made her way home by herself. Rocca informs her that school begins the following day. Sadly, Grandma says she won't be able to take her to school as she doesn't wake up so early, but this doesn't faze Rocca.
Guten Tag.
Grandma introduces Rocca to her friends as she takes her seat. She is against Rocca's dad's thinking she's old enough to stay alone in his apartment while he sails through space. Rocca corrects them, saying he's with the International Space Station. Rocca takes her seat, and Grandma clarifies that she is not responsible for her upbringing as she continues her card game. Grandma tries to displease Rocca, but Rocca counters her insults, leaving her ashamed. Rocca drops a final diss as she advises Grandma she should play the Queen of Clubs before bidding them goodbye and exiting the room.
Heute zusammenlegen, Oma.
Tschüss, tschüss.
In her room, Rocca excitedly shows her furry friend the pictures on the wall of her mom, dad, and herself when she was a baby. She tells the squirrel, whom she names Klitschko, that it'll be all right by tomorrow as she places it in a cozy bowl. She microwaves some pudding for Klitschko before feeding it by the window. Her new neighbors, Lila and John, live next door and are addicted to their phones. Lila stares at Rocca through the window and ignores her mother, who calls her to come and have dinner. Her mom heads into her room to get her, thinking she's on her phone, but sees she isn't. Lila explains that there's a new girl in Grandma's house, but refers to Grandma as an old witch. Her mother, uncomfortable with her daughter's words, brushes off the topic. She instructs Lila to come downstairs immediately, and Lila complies.
Lila? Ja.
That night, Rocca plays around the room as she sets it up to her taste. Afterwards, she takes Klitschko outside to see the ISS in the sky. She states that her main goal is to join her father in space one day as she tucks Klitschko in. Rocca connects to the Astana ESA space station to have a video chat with her father. A worker, Andrea, answers her call and warmly greets Rocca. Andrea is very smart, as she knows Rocca landed that plane in the afternoon. She asks why Rocca suddenly left the airport, but Rocca isn't interested in the glory that comes with being a hero. She is just glad they are able to land safely.
Kannst du mich mit Papa auf der ISS verbinden?
Rocca requests that Andrea connect her to her father on the ISS, and Andrea agrees. The call initiates, but her dad's friend, Dimitri, picks up. He makes a joke about how her dad went shopping before letting the two have their fun. She is happy to see her father floating in the space station. He then asks her how things are with Grandma, but Rocca changes the topic, requesting that he show her the Earth. After showing her the view of the Earth from the ISS, he asks once more how things are going.
Wie ist es mit Oma?
She says things are going great, but her father doesn't buy it. He asks if she's sure everything is all right, and Rocca says she is. They continue having their conversation, and then her dad tells her she should be in bed because it's late. He reminds her that she has a big day tomorrow and asks that she go to bed. He then asks if Grandma will be taking her to school, to which Rocca lies and says she will. Her father is happy to hear this and bids her good night.
Schlaf gut.
Morning comes and Klitschko wanders around the house, reaching Grandma's bed. It tickles her feet and eventually wakes her up. Grandma screams as she sees the little critter and picks up her flowers. She chases it around the room but slips in the process and lands really hard on the ground.
Bist du?
Rocca wakes up calling for Klitschko, and he comes running. Next door, Lila is peeking again as she calls John to come see the girl she talked about yesterday. John says he doesn't see any squirrels, and they both wonder what Rocca is doing. Lila assumes that Rocca is a seamstress because she is customizing a dress. The duo then hurries as they have to get to school. Downstairs, Rocca hears her grandma complaining. She asks Grandma if she needs any help, but Grandma says she doesn't. Hearing this, Rocca steps out of the house and skates her way to school. She arrives at school, and as she enters, she realizes she is late. Lila and John see her again and are shocked that she attends the same school. The principal, Klein, addresses the students as she enters and assigns Rocca to a class. Rocca happily goes to her new class. In the hallway, a girl named Zoe is bullied as other girls make fun of her sweater. They call Zoe Rocca's BFF as they walk to class. Hearing this, Rocca realizes that the bullies might try to set their gaze on her. Zoe enters the class and everyone shuns her, leaving her alone in the back. The bullies take photos of her and call her a zombie. Shortly after, Rocca enters the class and sits next to a boy named Max. Max gets angry that she sits beside him and asks if she's nuts. Rocca responds by asking if there's anything wrong with him that'll prevent her from sitting by his side. This makes Max look stupid, and everyone laughs at him. The students continue laughing and look at their phones, leaving Rocca confused. She peeks into Max's phone and realizes they're all making fun of Zoe, calling her rude names. Only Lila and Rocca don't find the bullying funny. Their fun comes to an end as the teacher steps in. She suggests they throw a yarn ball around and use it to introduce themselves.
Und dann Kreis bilden.
She tosses it at Max, and he introduces himself. He stares at Rocca next and asks if she can catch. With full power, he tosses the ball at her, but Rocca catches it with ease, impressing everyone. Rocca introduces herself to the class and mentions how she needs a diploma to complete her astronaut training. Max tries making fun of her by saying his aunt is a psychologist and she should seek some help. Rocca counters his insult, saying that he needs it more than she does.
Meine Tante ist Psychologin, vielleicht kann sie dir helfen.
And everyone laughs at Max again. Rocca talks about all the different skills she was taught at the camp. Klitschko pops its head out, and Rocca says she needs to go home to feed it. Everyone is happy to see the cute critter, but her teacher states she can't just leave school and return whenever she wants. She also points out that pets aren't allowed in school.
Sind hier Haustiere nicht erlaubt?
Rocca corrects her, saying it's not her pet. Klitschko had an accident and she needs to nurse him back to health. Her teacher is amazed by the heroism and asks why she can't leave him at home with someone. The teacher then realizes that Rocca lives alone at home and worries that an 11-year-old doesn't have a guardian. Rocca says they'll talk more about it as she prepares to leave. The teacher hesitantly agrees but instructs that she has someone to care for Klitschko by the following day. While leaving the class, Rocca tosses the yarn ball at the bully and she's unable to catch it. She suggests that the bully get better at catching the ball before going on to make fun of others. Rocca gets home and is shocked to see an ambulance outside. She rushes in and sees Grandma on a gurney. Grandma claims she was attacked, but the medics assume that she has a concussion. The medics take Rocca's father's number and inform her that Grandma will be at the university hospital.
Ist wahrscheinlich eine Gehirnerschütterung.
Rocca heads inside and spots a letter from her father on the table. As she reads it, she realizes it's written to Grandma, and it asks Grandma to welcome Rocca with open arms. It also asks Grandma to treat Rocca well, as she wasn't the cause of her mother's death. Rocca proceeds to feel Klitschko and doesn't plan on returning to school that day. The doorbell rings later, and Rocca goes to check who it is. She sees Leela and John at the door and welcomes them in. John commends Rocca for her bravery in leaving school and says that Klein noticed she wasn't in class. Rocca claims that she's not afraid and says she will speak to him the following day. Leela is surprised that Rocca lives alone and tells her that Klein wants to contact child services on her behalf. Rocca is confident that she can handle the situation by herself. She asks the duo if they would like to go boating. Lila says they'll get in trouble and haven't done their homework. Rocca promises to help her get it done. John is all in on the adventure and Lila eventually agrees.
Macht Sinn.
Das gibt Ärger.
On the boat, Rocca asks Lila why she doesn't hang out with Zoe. John explains that she will be cut off from the group chat if she does. And this makes Rocca sad because she has a different idea of what school should be like. She pictures it as more fun without any bullying. On their ride, Rocca spots some abandoned cans and ropes. She gets a crazy idea and suggests that they build a raft. All that's left is some wood, and Rocca says she knows where they can get some. The crew arrives at an area with many homeless people, and Lila says they shouldn't go there. John sides with her, and Lila says that homeless people might be dangerous.
Es ist doch völlig egal, zu wissen, wo Menschen herkommen.
Rocca shuns them and proceeds to ask them for wood. The homeless people stare at her as she asks for some pieces of their wood. After a short silence, they agree and ask her to take whatever she wants. Rocca thanks them and says they are very nice. This makes them happy as it's been a while since they received nice compliments. John pulls Rocca away, and the crew tells them goodbye as they leave with the wood. They all have fun playing around at the riverside as they craft the raft. They get into the water, and due to their weights being unstable, they all fall off the raft, but don't mind because they're having fun. Once their fun ends, Rocca takes the siblings home to their worried mother. She asks where they've been and is surprised when she finds that her phone-addicted kids were playing outside for a change. The kids ask their mom if Rocca can join them for dinner, and she agrees. While having dinner, Rocca talks about how she has been receiving training to be an astronaut, and the kids are super excited to hear it. Their mom asks Rocca if her father wasn't afraid for her when she was training in the capsule. Rocca says that everything becomes less fun if people are afraid.
Immer nur Angst hat, hat man noch viel weniger Spaß.
She is impressed by Rocca, but still keeps her guard up. She tells the kids it's getting late as she clears the table. Rocca thanks her for the food as she makes her way home. Their father sits in the living room as he watches the news and sees that it talks about the anonymous hero who landed the plane. The next day, Rocca arrives at school and walks in a hallway with Leela and John. Klein suddenly interrupts and demands Rocca's attention. She follows him to his office, where he asks for her guardian's phone number. Rocca doesn't have an active guardian, so she tries giving him hers, but he refuses. He gives her a document and asks that her parents sign it before the next day. Rocca explains that her parents aren't available and her grandma is in the hospital. She decides to sign the document herself.
Wenn es so wichtig ist.
But Klein refuses. Rocca suddenly hears commotion from outside and sees Zoe being bullied. The bully chases after Zoe, but unfortunately trips and lands face first on the ground. The kids gather around her and instead of helping, they pull out their phones and take pictures. Zoe and Rocca rush towards the bully to help her. Zoe uses her sweater to clean up the blood, while Rocca uses her experience to apply first aid. Medics arrive at the scene shortly after, and Klein also steps out of his office. Rocca is annoyed at Klein and rudely points out that his job is to make sure kids in the school are happy. Klein responds by saying that his job is simply to pass on knowledge. Annoyed by her questions, Klein suggests that Rocca take his job, but she sarcastically refuses. A teacher tries to teach the students in class, but they ignore him. Seeing this, Rocca decides to lighten the mood. After understanding how poor the school environment is becoming, she leaves the classroom and makes her way to Klein's office.
Nein, ich wollte nur sicher gehen.
She bursts into his office and causes his card construction to crumble. Rocca accepts his offer to take his job as principal and requests a microphone, which she intends to use to address the students. Klein surprisingly agrees to her request. Outside, the bully leaves the school because she's tired, while the other students stand outside. Rocca draws a circle on the ground as she prepares to play a game. She uses the mic to get everyone's attention. Rocca informs them that she'll ask a question, and anyone who thinks the question applies to them should enter the circle. The students follow her instructions and enter the circle when they hear a question that relates to them. Everyone enjoys her game, and Rocca suddenly asks a shocking question. She asks anyone who has ever made a classmate sad to step into the circle. Everyone who bullied Zoe steps into the circle as they feel guilty for their actions. After reflecting on their actions momentarily, Klein steps in and instructs everyone to return to class. One of the bullies walks to Rocca and thanks her for making her realize her wrongdoings. At the hospital, Rocca stops by to visit Grandma, who is with her friends. Grandma asks Rocca to get an exterminator to get rid of Klitschko. Feeling guilty for Grandma's injuries, she tries playing along and moves in for a hug, but Klitschko pops out of her bag. Grandma yells as she recognizes Klitschko as the animal that caused her accident. Rocca tries to explain, but Grandma says that she's truly a source of bad luck. This hurts Rocca, and she runs out of the room in tears. Annoyed by what just happened, Grandma's friend scolds Grandma, saying that she's not the cause of her daughter's death. Grandma points out that she lost her daughter, but her friend also reminds her that Rocca lost her mother, too.
Du bringst wirklich nur Unglück.
Rocca sits on the floor in the hallway and cries while holding Klitschko. She decides to go home and sees Casper. Seeing a friendly face, she sits close to him, and Casper notices she is crying. Rocca claims she's crying because she's hungry and invites Casper to her house for pizza. Casper turns down her offer, saying her parents won't be comfortable with his presence. She assures him that she lives alone, and they head to her house.
Ich könnte uns eine Pizza bestellen.
She makes the order when they get home, and Casper compliments her house. Rocca then asks Casper why he's homeless, and Casper says he is a lawyer. This interests Rocca, who wants to know more. She is shocked to learn that Casper had a wife and daughter who died in an accident. He begins feeling uncomfortable and chooses not to continue his story.
Jedenfalls habe ich seitdem nicht mehr darüber gesprochen und ich möchte jetzt auch nicht.
The doorbell rings and Rocca sees it's not the pizza she ordered. She opens the door and an agent from Child Services named Hartholz stands outside. She welcomes the agent inside and calls for her papa. Casper gets the hint and immediately begins playing along. They arrive at the dining table and Hartholz notices that Rocca's fridge is empty. Casper emerges while using a huge blanket to cover his dirty clothes. He pretends to be sick and refuses to shake Hartholz's hand. Hartholz explains that she received a report that says Rocca lives alone while her dad is in space. Casper denies being in space, but she suddenly asks for his identification. Realizing that he doesn't have an identification that will match Rocca's, he makes an excuse and says he left it in space. The pizza arrives and the trio sits down to eat. Casper eats as though he's starving, leaving Hartholz in shock. Tired of their games, Hartholz informs them that she will organize a meeting in court where he'll prove he is her father. She mentions that Rocca will have a guardian appointed to her or be sent to a foster family if he can't prove that he's her father.
Schauen Sie, ich tue meine Pflicht.
Hartholz takes her leave and Rocca opens the door for the next guests, Lila and John. They bring food for her as they come to hang out. The trio gets to her room, but Casper is gone. He leaves a note behind and thanks her for making him feel he's worth something. Rocca and her friends continue having fun and even make cards to search for a nanny. Rocca calls her dad, and the others see he's on the ISS. Her dad finds out that Grandma is in the hospital, and Rocca has been on her own the whole time. She breaks down while saying that Grandma hates her. Her father tries to encourage her, saying that Grandma doesn't hate her. The spacecraft's alarms suddenly go off, and their call abruptly ends.
Du bist das tollste Mädchen, das es auf der ganzen Welt gibt.
Lila asks if everything is all right, and Rocca says there's nothing to worry about. She attributes the alarm to a possible ammonia leak or an issue with space junk. John asks if she wants to come to their house, but Lila says their mum doesn't want them hanging out with her again. She believes that her kids aren't safe because of the extreme activities that Rocca gets into. Rocca tells them not to worry and says she'll be fine as the duo leaves the house. That night, Rocca tries calling her dad again, but doesn't get an answer. She comforts herself by playing old videos she made with her father. She then stares at Klitschko, who has recovered from its injuries, and realizes it's time to set her furry friend free. The following morning, Rocca sets Klitschko free and asks him to be extra careful when crossing the street.
Nicht rumheulen.
Max rides his bicycle and pulls over as he sees Rocca. He asks what she's doing, and she explains that she's letting Klitschko go. Max is confused about why she's doing this, but he offers her a ride on his bicycle. On their way to school, Rocca asks if he's afraid of homeless people, and Max says he isn't. She wonders why people don't help them, and Max quotes his dad, who says that some of them can't be helped and don't need help. Max pulls over and shows her a new video the bully made on Videogram. In the video, she mocks Zoe even though Zoe helped her when she was hurt. Rocca complains as she sees it, and they stop by a bridge. They sit by a bridge, and Rocca imitates the bully's gestures to mock her. She decides to become an influencer who posts meaningful content online, but Max informs her that no one will watch her if she isn't interesting. Just then, she sees a newspaper about her heroic plane landing and asks if people will be interested in a video that proves she's the one who landed the plane. Max confirms that people will and says she'll have a community. She asks if he can set up social media accounts for her since he's 13 years old and above the age limit for owning a social media account. Max agrees.
Klar. Cool.
And the duo goes to the homeless people. They give the people food and drink. Her dad suddenly calls to confirm he's all right, but Rocca says she'll have to call him back later before hanging up. She then asks the homeless people if she can make a video with them, and they agree without hesitation. Max takes Rocca to his house, which is a massive mansion. Rocca is amazed by all the cool gadgets around the house, and they head to the indoor pool. Here, Max edits the videos, and once it's done, they play in the pool school while the video uploads. The duo heads to school together sometime later, and Lila informs Rocca that she's running out of time. Zoe informs her that her court session will be held after school, and it will determine if she'll go to a foster home. The class stands with Rocca and think of a way to help her while Max sits beside Zoe. The bully is confused about why no one is picking on Zoe anymore. Rocca's teacher walks in soon after and tells Rocca that things aren't looking good for her situation. Rocca tells her not to worry because multiple people have applied to be her guardian. A reporter suddenly walks into the class with Klein and asks who Rocca is. She identifies herself, and he mentions that he'd like to interview her. As she leaves, Max tells everyone that Rocca uploaded a video of her landing the plane and raises awareness of how homeless people need help. This video has become popular and her actions touch everyone. Afterwards, the class finally accepts Zoe as a member. Later, Rocca throws a party while testing the applicants. Unfortunately, none of the women agree to stand as her guardian, and she realizes she needs a lawyer for the case. Remembering that Casper is a lawyer, she and her friends search the city but don't find him. She eventually finds Casper as the other students return to school and asks him to stand as her lawyer. Casper refuses and completes his tragic story by saying he's the cause of his wife and child's deaths. He explains how he ignored his family because he was too busy working, and they died in an avoidable accident. Rocca sympathizes with him and mentions that her mother died while giving birth to her. She consoles him by saying that his family won't be happy to see him sad and depressed. Rocca's teacher arrives and escorts her to court. She leaves the area, but Casper sees that she forgot her phone.
Bitte, hilf mir, Kaspar.
In court, Rocca's teacher cannot defend the fact that she lives alone. In a last-ditch effort, she slams a newspaper on the judge's table and asks if he's aware that Rocca is the mystery hero who saved everyone. The judge is shocked to see that Rocca is responsible for saving 180 people, and her teacher mentions that someone as skilled as she is should be able to live alone until her grandma returns from the hospital. Casper suddenly enters the room and is interested in representing Rocca. He uses various points to prove that Rocca is mature enough to be alone for a few days. Hearing this, the judge sides with him and instructs her teacher to be her temporary guardian. Rocca hugs Casper for helping her,
Sitzung ist geschlossen.
and the trio decides to have lunch on a beach. Casper says he'll meet with them later and shows up dressed in a suit. Rocca and her teacher are shocked by his appearance, and as they take a walk, he shows them his large house. He mentions how he couldn't stay in it after the death of his family and plans on selling it to buy a smaller one. He plans on using the extra money to start a charity. This gives Rocca an idea, and she makes a video where she asks everyone to gather empty bottles and bring them to school. She intends to sell the bottles and donate the money to charity. Several people turn up to school with as many bottles as possible. This makes Rocca happy and decides to play the game with the circle again. She takes the mic and asks questions that help everyone bond. Meanwhile, Grandma sees the video Rocca made and is touched. She decides to rush to her granddaughter and even outpaces the doctor.
Sie braucht mich.
Back at the school, Rocca successfully makes everyone happy. Grandma then arrives and says she's seeking forgiveness. Seeing this, Rocca rushes to her and hugs her, throwing away all her grudges against her. Rocca heroically lands a plane and starts by being a humble hero. She begins living with her grandmother and befriends everyone in school in no time. She shows everyone at school that everyone matters, and this spreads to even the homeless people. At the end, she united the entire school and even the community. But do you think Rocca is a real superhero?